Another patch, another dose of double lift. What's going on, GameLeapers? It is the G's back at it, and in today's video we are going to be revealing the 15 best top laners of patch 11.7. So if you want to know which champions you have to pick so you can win your games, strap yourselves in for the next 10 or so minutes. And let me just say this, there is one big change this patch that is 100% going to impact the top lane landscape, so you better be ready. Now if you want to master, if you want to perfect any champion on this list, guys, then you know what you have to do. Get signed up to the GameLeap website. Not only do I upload videos on the daily which are guaranteed to help you climb, we also have the freshest and the best courses and guides that thousands of your fellow summoners are already using, so join the club. Links as always in the description and comment section. Alright, let's get into it, guys, and starting us off, we have everyone's favorite Yordle Teemo, who is one of the 3 top laners getting direct buff this patch. So the extra attack speed when you exit your stealth is now lasting 5 seconds and not 3 seconds. This is really useful when you're waiting in lane at level 1 and throughout a game for the enemy to walk unsuspectingly in range of your ambush. And then your ease on hit damage is up at each rank, and seeing as you max this first, your laning phase is even stronger. Now speaking of that laning phase, there are going to be even more bruisers and fighters picked next patch because of the new Trinity Force, but some of these champions are very scary to play against, so Irelia and Wukong for example. But on the whole, with an early Nash's Tooth and Leandra's Anguish, you have the potential to carry against anyone, especially with the 11.7 buffs. Now ahead of Teemo, guys, we have one of those potential Trinity Force abusers, and I did just mention her, and that's Irelia. So the new Trinity Force, guys, is giving you less attack speed but more attack damage. The threefold strike passive now stacks on towers, and the mythic passive has changed so it now gives 3 ability haste, 3 attack damage, and 3 bonus movement speed instead of attack speed. Now for Irelia, attack speed is important, no doubt, which is one of the reasons you rush Blade of the Ruined King, but in this meta, damage is huge. So the increase in AD will be very useful, especially when you're dueling other bruisers and fighters later in a game. It also opens up the split push playstyle, and in teamfights Irelia can sometimes struggle unless you're well versed on her, so you can just destroy your top lane opponent over and over again until the enemy nexus explodes. So 11.7 Irelia, guys, a strong pick. Now just ahead of Irelia, we have a champion who is really underperforming until 11.6 when Riot buffed Sunfire Aegis, and this top laner where you would think Goredrinker would be the best mythic item for him and his lizard, but for Kled, guys, the new Sunfire worked wonders, and this used to be the go-to build before Riot nerfed Sunfire a bunch of times. The 11.6 bug fix to Ceres Gauge has also helped Kled out immensely, making you harder to bring down in teamfights so you can dive onto the enemy backline more liberally, and these changes have seen Kled shoot to the top of the win rates across all elos. Now the new Trinity Force does make some champions more dangerous for sure, Fiora and Camille to name a couple, but seeing as none of your items are getting nerfed, you can easily go toe-to-toe with these picks and annihilate everyone else. Low-key broken is 11.7 Kled. Now ahead of Kled, guys, you might be scratching your head a bit here because lots of players see this guy as the strongest top laner, and no doubt he is strong but not the strongest, and that is why Darius is coming in at number 12. Now all your power is still there, right? You have Stridebreaker, you've got Gauge, your damage, but other champions you struggle against got better. So Yorick is buffed, Teemo is buffed, Wukong is buffed, and you can't ban all of them. So you can still hard carry and you're one of the best snowballing champions in the game, let alone top laners, but yeah, a little harder to be as dominant in 11.7. Now one champion who isn't going to be on the receiving end as much as Darius this patch is Riven. You see these champions, guys, Teemo, Yorick, Wukong, Fiora, Irelia, none of these are big counters, and though it will make them a little harder to play against, it's nothing to write home to Nasus about. Thankfully, your Goredrinker and Black Cleaver core will be as strong for the next 2 weeks, so you can start to 1v9 with that ability haste and scaling, so Riven remains in a good spot in 11.7, guys. Just yeah, please auto attack in between your abilities. Now kicking off the top 10, guys, is a champion like Kled who has seen more planned success since the 11.6 Sunfire buffs, and that is Shen. Now who can remember when Shen was the best top laner during the preseason? Seems ages ago now, but the reason he was so good was because of Sunfire, and guess what? The immolate damage is back to what it was, so if you land one taunt on your foe, yeah, they're gone. The buff to Teemo is annoying, we can't ignore that, but in general, you bring so much to the table that you can afford to cop it in lane and still carry. Your ultimate, your setup, your ability to crush auto attack based champions like Irelia, Jax, and Tryndamere because of your W, probably the most consistent and reliable pick of 11.7, guys, is Shen. So we mentioned one Stridebreaker user earlier, and that was Darius. Well, it's time for another and a better one. Now, if you don't already know, Nocturne is one of the best top laners in the game, guys, purely because of the Stridebreaker and Ceres Gauge setup. He has held a 54% win rate in high elo for multiple patches now, so it's time to start playing it. In the early game, you can almost always get the push in level 2 first because of your Q and passive, and your fear comes in really handy to escape ganks and set up ganks. Once you get the breaker, the attack damage you get, the attack speed, the haste, the movement speed, and the tankiness and survivability with Sterax is too much to handle. And one of the best things about Noc is that when you're done paranoiing your own lane, you can venture elsewhere and fear the rest of the enemy team into defeat. Now, if you want an even better chance of giving your enemies defeats, it's time for you to start learning how to play Fiora. The new Trinity Force is definitely an upgrade for you grand duelists out there, and if you're sick and tired of your teammates running it down, well, you don't have to worry about that anymore. Stay in that side lane and take turrets with the new threefold strike effect. Now, Essence Reaver did get nerfed, so for 100 less gold, you get 10 less attack damage, and this is big. But the big selling point for ER is the mana restoration, because you can run very quickly on Fiora if you're fighting on the reg and using your abilities a lot. Now, Trinity Force does not give you that, that's true, so maybe it becomes mandatory to buy a tier early on and then a Mana Moon A later to compensate for the mana loss, but on the whole, Trinity is a lot more viable, and the extra attack damage you're getting is what really stands out. This gets put into your vitals, your Q, your R, and let's not forget that the 11-4 buff to your vital damage is still present. So if you want a 1v1 of this patch, guys, who can solo carry as well as anyone, Fiora it is. Now ahead of Fiora, guys, we have another Stride Breaker abuser who is one of the best in the game. Now if you're someone who doesn't spend that much time playing League, and why wouldn't you, the game is so good, or if you like playing simple to play champions, Garen is ideal. He's easy, obnoxious to play against, hard to counter, hard to stop, and yeah, you are going to have an impact in pretty much every game. Your synergy with Stride Breaker is deadly. As soon as that slow lands and you get that extra movement speed, nothing can peel you, and the Sterak's bug fix from last patch allows you to do this even more freely. So 11-7 Garen, guys, still right up there. Now another champion that is right up there is the top laner boasting the highest win rate at the moment. So if you're playing Urgot, it's time to keep playing him, start playing him if you are not already. It's kind of funny, guys, because when Riot buffed your Purges on hit in 11-4, it made us realize that rushing Titanic Hydra and then Stride Breaker was the best way to build the God. And even after reverting this buff in 11-6, this build with a W max is still carving up play. And the good news is that nothing is really affecting you this patch. Now the new Trinity Force Wukong will be a pain, as will Teemo, so there are a couple of bad matchups that will be even more difficult, but in the big picture, Urgot is keeping all of his strength in 11-7, so still a great champion. Alright, we're into the top 5 top laners for 11-7, guys, and before we send it, one last friendly reminder from the Jizz to check out the GameLeap website if you want to get a challenger. Helping you improve, guys, it's what we do. And I do it daily because that's how often I post videos to the website, so for guaranteed success this season, get your fingers moving and click on one of the links down below. Okay, number 5 on the countdown, guys. Well, this champion, like a few others on this list, isn't really benefiting from any of the 11-7 buffs or nerfs directly, but for Nasus, well, you dogs will be happier with the new Trinity Force because you can cane all of these TF users out of the top lane. So if you think of the attack speed based champions like Jax, well, you are going to beat him even more, and then the more rounded champions like Wukong and Camille, well, you do great into these two anyway, so seeing more of them is a positive in that sense. Just press W and the lane is over. Now the early laning phase is going to continue being pretty difficult, but that's what you sign up for on Susan. Your goal is to get to level 9 with your Q max and then Divine Sundero without running it down too much. I mean, even if you do run it down, you can still hard carry, so for another patch, Nasus stays as one of the best top laners in the game. Now the number 1 top laner from last patch, guys, has dropped a few places this time around simply because a few Trinity Force abusers are the cream of the crop. But the good thing is you can still pump them. So as Quinn, guys, with bruisers and fighters being the popular force in the top lane, you have the range to harass them for eternity and to disengage any champion desperately needs when they jump on you, whether that's with Stride Breaker or an ability, whatever it is. And you also have the ability to influence the map better than anyone else because of your ultimate. You can fly around after crushing your lane opponent and do the same to the rest of the map. The changes to Immortal Shield Bow also come in handy if you're up against high damage champions like Irelia and Riven because of the bigger shield, and the Gale Force route is still super strong. So 11-7 Quinn, guys, the ultimate counter pick. Now the top 3, guys, here we go, and the number 3 champion is Yorick. Why? Well, his shovel got bigger. In other words, he got buffed. So when you land your E, guys, Mark champions will awaken graves during the debuff, which means you don't have to double cast your Q to get your raise, and this makes your tougher matchups easier to deal with in particular. Also, your E's Mistwalkers now deal an attack when they leap to the target hit, which is huge. This is a Conqueror stack, a Black Cleaver stack, DPS, and finally, your E, if cast out of range, will cast at the max range instead of making you walk up. Now with the Trinity Force buffs as well, and the Cerilda's Grudge buff, which now costs 200 less gold, Yorick is going to be an absolute powerhouse, and arguably the best split pusher in the game. Yorick mains, let me know your thoughts on 11-7 in the comments. Now the runner-up, guys, to the best top laner in 11-7 is another Trinity Force abuser, and this is Wukong. Now the Monkey King might as well be called King Kong this patch because, guys, he is beyond broken. You were already sending it before the TF changes, and now no one can compete. Well, one other champion can, but yeah. The extra AD, the new mythic passive, it offers so much more value for a damage-based fighter like Wukong than attack speed, so good luck beating Wukong in 11-7, guys. Now the best top laner of 11-7, well, if she isn't the most complained about top laner, because yeah, Darius probably holds that spot, she is definitely the second most complained about, and that's because Camille is straight up broken again, guys. Like Wukong, the extra AD and rounded mythic passive Trinity now gives you, more damage, more dueling potential, and more scaling, and as we all know, there are few things more frustrating than losing half your health bar to a Camille true damage Q. We'll expect more of these this patch. She was already in a good position before this change, guys, and now, well, she's the nuts. So those are the top 15 top laners of 11-7, guys. Leave your thoughts in the comments down below. Like for the timestamps, subscribe for the jizz, and until tomorrow's video, peace.